In the world of true crime, some mysteries fade with time. Others, however, only grow stranger the more you learn about them. The case of Charles Chuck Morgan is one of those stories. It's a case full of contradictions, secret messages, shadowy figures, and questions that have never been answered. At its heart is a quiet family man, a banker from Tucson, Arizona, who may have stumbled into a world of crime and corruption that ultimately cost him his life. Chuck Morgan wasn't the kind of person you'd expect to be connected to organized crime or government conspiracies. At 39 years old, he was an escrow agent, someone who managed trust accounts and financial transactions for clients. He was married, with 4 daughters, and lived what appeared to be a steady and respectable life. His neighbors saw him as reliable, his colleagues saw him as professional, and his family saw him as loving and devoted. But behind the curtain of normalcy, Chuck's life was far from ordinary. On March 22, 1977, everything began to unravel. That morning, Chuck kissed his wife goodbye and dropped his daughters off at school, just like he always did. But he never showed up at his office. Hours passed, then days, with no sign of him. His family feared the worst. But on the 3rd day, Chuck suddenly reappeared, disoriented, shaken, and unable to speak. He communicated with his wife using only handwritten notes. According to him, he had been kidnapped. He said that his abductors had coated the inside of his throat with a powerful hallucinogenic drug. If he tried to speak about what had happened, the drug could kill him or drive him insane. Chuck told his wife that his life, and hers, were in grave danger. She begged him to go to the police, but Chuck refused. He claimed the people behind this were too powerful. He believed going public would put the entire family at risk. For the next 2 months, Chuck lived like a man under siege. He carried a gun everywhere, wore a bulletproof vest at times, and looked over his shoulder constantly. He confided to close friends that he had been working secretly with the U.S. Treasury Department, helping them investigate a massive money laundering scheme involving organized crime. According to Chuck, millions of dollars were being funneled through Tucson banks into the hands of the mafia. He hinted that he had evidence of these operations and that his role as an escrow agent gave him access to records most people would never see. But if Chuck really was helping the government, it's unclear how official his involvement was. There are no public records confirming he was ever an informant. What is clear is that he believed he was in deep, and that he had crossed people who wouldn't hesitate to silence him. On June 18, 1977, Chuck's fears came true. His body was discovered in the Arizona desert, about 40 miles from Tucson. He was found lying near his car, shot in the back of the head with his own .357 Magnum revolver. He was still wearing a bulletproof vest, and a pair of handcuffs lay nearby. Even stranger was what investigators found inside his mouth, a $2 bill, folded carefully, covered in strange writing and codes. The $2 bill had 7 Spanish names scrawled on one side. It also contained a small map leading to an area between Tucson and the Mexican border, a region known for smuggling operations. On the reverse side were references to multiple Bible verses, including Ecclesiastes 12, which speaks about the fragility of life, the end of earthly existence, and the judgment to come. There were also notations referencing the Freemasons and to law enforcement, as if Chuck had been trying to leave behind a final message or clue about what was happening to him. Despite the bizarre circumstances, the Pima County Sheriff's Department quickly ruled Chuck's death a suicide. Their theory was that Chuck had staged the scene himself, putting on a vest, leaving cryptic notes, and then shooting himself in the back of the head. But this explanation left many people baffled. Shooting yourself in the back of the head is not impossible, but it is extraordinarily rare. Doing it while leaving behind codes and messages, all while wearing a vest designed to protect yourself, seemed contradictory at best. Chuck's family immediately rejected the suicide ruling. His wife insisted that he had been murdered, and that powerful forces were behind the cover-up. She pointed to his strange behavior in the weeks before his death, his claims about working with the Treasury Department, and his warnings that his life was in danger. The coded $2 bill seemed like a desperate attempt to leave behind evidence that could one day explain what had happened. Then came another twist. Just days after Chuck's death, a mysterious woman contacted investigators. She identified herself only as Green Eyes and claimed to have been Chuck's lover. According to her, Chuck had given her a briefcase full of documents before he died. She claimed these documents proved his involvement with both organized crime and government agencies. But when police pressed her for more information, she vanished. The documents were never recovered, and Green Eyes was never heard from again. Some theories suggest that Chuck was indeed involved in laundering money for the mafia, possibly without fully realizing the danger he was in. Once he tried to back out, or worse, cooperate with investigators, he became a liability. Others argue that he may have been working for the government, but that he knew too much and was silenced before he could testify. There are even whispers of larger conspiracies involving covert operations along the US-Mexico border, where drug trafficking, money laundering, and government interests often intersected during the 1970s. What makes Chuck Morgan's case so haunting is that it sits at the intersection of all these possibilities. Was he a victim of organized crime? Was he a government informant who was betrayed? Or was he a man caught between both worlds, with no safe way out? To this day, his death remains officially classified as a suicide, despite overwhelming suspicion from his family, friends, and many independent investigators. The cryptic $2 bill has never been decoded with certainty. The identity of Green Eyes remains unknown. And the truth about Chuck's connections to organized crime and government operations has been buried under decades of silence. Chuck Morgan's story is not just a mystery, it's a chilling reminder of how ordinary people can become entangled in extraordinary and dangerous worlds. He wasn't a mobster, or a spy, or a career criminal. He was a banker, a husband, a father. But somewhere along the line, he crossed paths with forces far larger than himself. And when that happened, his fate was sealed. Today, nearly 50 years later, the case of Chuck Morgan continues to haunt those who know about it. It stands as one of the most bizarre and unsettling unsolved cases in American history. A story of secrets, codes, and silence, and of a man who may have known too much,